To fully disassembly, you first need a wrench that has a chain on it and a socket for removing this ring here, but I'll explain. Sometimes it's too stuck. It's better to have a bike shop doing it. Then inside you will need a piece which looks like this. So this is, I've made it myself, but you can buy it. This is optional if you want to fully remove the core from the frame of the bicycle, but it's optional. It's not necessary if you want to refurbish everything. And then I suggest having a thin nose pliers and maybe a magnet. And these are about your tools. Again, the first tools to remove this ring, it's a wrench. Google up online with a socket. So it's two tools, one wrench with a chain and then a socket plus a wrench to keep the socket. This is normal thread, so we are going to remove it like this. I'm going to give you more tips about removing these things in a moment. And this looks like that. It has a thread on it. And then we have the sprockets here. Notice the top sprocket, the smallest one, has this teeth to prevent this thing from losing itself. And when you release this thing, first it stays like this with the taller part there just to create space, but also notice here on the case there are bumps and one of them is small, the others are all big, and that's because it has to fit on small cuts on the sprockets. So notice you need to identify the only small hole here, basically groove, and just match it in there so it drops in there and it's secure. Notice the gap, it's similar. So this is first sprocket. Notice again the small cut, only one that fits on the small bump, and notice how it sits in there. And the other will come as a pack. Obviously mine it's already all untightened, that's why I'm doing it by hand. Inside here you have a small dust cup. So this the roll for this thing was not properly seated. I just keep it outside here. The roll for this is really just to prevent dust from getting in there. For this you may try to remove it with a thin nose pliers, but I can tell you it's almost impossible to remove it intact. If you deform it, either just discard it. It's not needed. Obviously there's going to be dust getting to your bearings, so maybe you need to clean them more often, or replace it with a plastic piece. The sizes of these are different. This is a very slim one, so just replace with a solid stiff plastic piece of the same dimensions. Just put it in there, maybe put some grease on it so it doesn't wear. I'll explain in a moment maybe how to try to remove this thing, but it's the worst one. Okay, so at this point we have an inner piece here, a locking ring. This is the only one, this one now, that has a reverse thread, the only one. So basically to release it you need to go this way. Again, there are tools. I'll explain in a moment the dimensions for this. Obviously mine it's released. Notice I'm rotating it like this, right? That's how I release it from there. It was just put in there. This has basically, you will have the outer bearings for the hub itself. The bigger bearings will sit against this race here. So obviously those bearings, you remove them first. And then underneath you have, you will see 25 bearings. The hub ones, the top ones, 25 at the top, 25 at the bottom. These bearings usually are 3 mm diameter. 1/8 of an inch, again 25 of them on all, usually 25 at top, 25 at bottom, and they run here. And then at this moment you should be able to lift the outer shell. However, you still have the bearings here. My recommendation is use a small magnet. Well, some magnet that's rather strong to just fish all those bearings, but from the moment when you work on bearings, don't leave this piece. Put the well on the floor, maybe put a large foil, large sheet of plastic underneath the well to capture all the small bearings. If they are dry, they will run very far away, you will not find them. So be careful, all on the floor and with a large plastic piece, plastic sheet underneath to capture all the bearings. You can fish them first, the top ones, before lifting this piece. It depends. Sometimes they drop inside and they get stuck on the grease that's inside the hub, so I prefer to clean the grease before removing this piece. This is how this top piece looks. This is for the outer bearing, the thread. At the top, at the bottom, you will have, this is the race actually for the lower bearings, the small one, 25, and this is the race right here for the top bearings. And in between the two races, you have those cuts for the clicks, pawls. That's the actual name. Here at the top you will find 2 or 3 spacers. Try not to lose them. Usually the thick one, there is one thicker, it's at the bottom, and 1 or 2 at the top, depends on your models. So basically this, don't put grease on them. This is the piece here tightens against them, so it's going to crush them when it's tightened. Again, this is reverse thread. And then inside here there is 2 options, 2 possibilities. Either the piece, the hex piece, it's a tube that's securing the core, it's very deep in there and you cannot reach it with a regular socket. So this socket does not even touch that surface to release this core here. Another model has that piece much higher up and you can unlock it with the socket. It's just regular thread, so you unlock it towards the left, but oftentimes it's extremely tight in there. So it's up to you. I don't think it's necessary to remove this piece here. You can just retrieve the bearings, put them back in place. On that piece you will see a small, what I call a spring. It looks like this. There are 2 versions. One has a small 90-degree bend on one end, the other does not have this bend. What's important is this spring goes into this groove, and also look around here. Usually you will have 3 cuts for the poles. So we'll have, these are the poles. I'll explain in a moment. The way they sit is like this, with the cut, the deep cut above, and this is the bottom. So they sit like this and the spring comes into this cut. You'll have either 2 or 3 of these. It's not a problem if you find 2 of them, it's normal. Some models have only 2 of them. And this spring goes again over them. And by the way, this bend of the spring here goes towards that direction. What is important here is to notice that there are usually 3 spaces for the poles, or 2 for the poles and 1 empty. And there is one bump like this which is thinner. This bump, the spring starts on one end, goes around and stops against the other end. Okay, so this is how the spring goes. Even there, sometimes it's a cut in there, but the spring should end on both sides of this. Sometimes I think the spring that doesn't have bent ends, that spring starts on one end and ends on the other end. This one that has a bend, I think it starts here and the bend ends also here. So it goes over this notch here, it has a cut on it. So the spring that I have in my hand starts and ends on one end. It doesn't really matter which one, this one or this one. I think it's this one actually. The other spring starts on one end and ends on the other. So basically, if you want to remove the small poles, you just lift carefully one of them with the spring. Actually, it sits like this. Lift it and just move the spring towards the top. Careful so you don't bend the spring. So don't force on it. Don't widen it too much. So that's when you remove those poles. If you have only 2 poles, pay attention. One of the notches does not take a pole. It looks like you can put a pole in there, but the pole doesn't fit. So make sure you identify correctly the 2 notches that are needed for the poles. The third one does have a slightly different shape. So make sure. Or if in this situation I have 3 poles, there are 2, and this is the third one. They all notches take 1, so it's slightly different design, and that's how you remove everything. My suggestion is do not use oil in any way. Use use only grease, and there is two things about the grease: has to be light, not too sticky, because these poles, these pieces here need to lift. If the grease is too sticky, they are not going to lift, and they basically, the hub will not work properly. Also, smear them, just put them slight smear of grease on them. It does not have to be a lot of grease, because if it's too much grease, again, they are going to stick. So just smear them with grease, clean everything, and then put them in there. And the same goes for the balls. For the bearing balls, I have those bearing balls. I'm not sure if I did mention it's 3 millimeter or 1/8 inch each of them diameter. Put grease for the balls, but not too much grease, and then place the balls one by one at the bottom first. So yes, I was saying light grease, not sticky grease. Place the balls back in place with the spring, and then place the bottom balls, bottle bearings, if you want, 25 of them. Keep the wheel again on the floor. When you finish doing so, place the spacing ring, spacers, and then you want to get this piece here, place it over the bottom balls and with the poles in place. And then you want to drop the balls. You may want to first lubricate, grease a little bit the race here, and then place the top 25 balls on it. And my suggestion is use a straw, a thin straw if you can find. Just drop the ball through the straw, aim with the straw, and just place them inside. Otherwise, it's difficult to drop them correctly. You may drop them inside the hub. Again, try to lubricate first, put some grease around the race first, and then drop the balls. When you finish putting the balls in there, you have this piece here, drops on the balls. This is the other side of the race at the bottom. Again, this piece goes counterclockwise. And let's see about this piece, and then obviously you have the dust cap at the end. Now let's look at this piece here. Whoop, I went flying. Oops. Let me just put the wheel down perhaps at this point. Talk about tools and tips. This piece has two cuts at the top. If you want to fabricate your own tool, I did use this socket, which is, you can tell, 13 by 16. It fits in there. I did use my, what was that, angle, anyhow, I just used this cutter here. Here's the tip. It's really important. These cuts here, I did measure them. They have 4 millimeter wide and 3 millimeter tall. You really need to make the notches here about the same amount, just slightly less, obviously. But what's really, because you really want them, this can be really, really tight in there. So you want to use all the space that you have inside here to have a strong grip. But also what's really important, the sides here has to be very at an angle, not inclined. So it needs to be really vertical, otherwise it's going to slip out of there. And this is, make sure also the surface it's at an angle. Make sure both of them are the same length, because otherwise it's going to sit at an angle and it's going to jump out of there. This was very, very tight, and you may need a ratchet with a longer handle. The regular ratchets 3/8 drive may not have a handle long enough to put enough torque to release it from there. This is tricky. Let's just look here. I'm not sure if I did mention, but if you want to remove the core from there, the torque that takes, so this is, most of the time, this is normal thread, the piece that keeps the core on the wheel. So most of the time you are going to release it like this. I read on the forum there are some rare models that need that have the reverse thread. So I don't know what to say about this. I would say that most of them are just, you untighten them like this to remove them. So be careful, but they may be really, really stiff to remove, really stuck in there. So you need a long handle. Like I said, maybe it's not necessary to remove this piece from there. Also, speaking about that piece, I have here this socket, I can tell you from what I've seen on internet, the size for this varies. Some people say 10 millimeter. 10 millimeter, I'm going to guess, is the width like this. 10 millimeter. This one, it's 11 millimeter. Other people say 12 millimeter and even more. I also did on another hub use a Torx T55, but again the size made difference, so I cannot really help you with this. Let's just look. Let's just look here. Let me just finish, by the way. Continue quickly. When you want to release this thing, okay, I'll say it at the end. Okay, so now about this terrible spacer here. Again, it's not a problem if you damage it. It's not really a problem. It's just that you will get more dust in there. Depends if you ride your bicycle on dusty surfaces. This I can tell you right away, there is a good chance you won't be able to remove it. So maybe this is not a good news. The way it sits, notice it has kind of two faces here. The round face sits at the bottom like this, and it has to sit underneath these threads. And what happened oftentimes, first there is some grit in there, the dust, whatever, sand, and it's stuck in there. This thing is just slightly larger than the diameter here. It's not wider. It's not the width of the inner diameter, is really in between. Basically it goes at about half the height of the threads, half the depth of the threads. Normally the threads are very, very shallow. Let's try. I'm trying to put it back in place, see if I can remove it again. So one of the things, obviously you will have other components in there, so it does not fall at the bottom. One of the things that happened with it, I'm doing this one hand, is it will just lift a little bit and sit against the threads. At that moment it feels like it cannot move in there. So you want to make sure, just maybe press a little bit on it all around. So you want to make sure it sits all around underneath the last thread. That's important, otherwise it's going to be feel stuck. Let me just try to fill it. So normally when it's underneath the threads, it can rotate. It does not unscrew with the threads. It's not related to the threads, but you can rotate it. I'm not sure if you can do it one hand here. But if you, what I suggest, let me just give you my tips. It's grab it with the pliers. Grab it at the edge. It's actually fairly stiff metal, but don't force on it because you are going to bend it. Also, basically the cone of the hub sits in there, and that's how it seals. So if it's deformed, the cone of the hub will rub on it. That's not terrible, but you don't want to rub on it, so because it gets particle of metals on the bearings. So my suggestion is grab it like this and try to move it up and down a little bit. It should have a slight movement up and down all over the place when it's all underneath the threads. And then if you want, once it's my suggestion is first try to free it from that grit. So once it moves up and down, move it up and down all around a little bit, and then try to start rotating it to kind of release it from the grit. And then when you see it rotates fairly easily, try to lift it, just lever like this on the edge. Try to lift it at some place. If it doesn't work, rotate, try to lift it at some other place. It may take a little bit of force. Not sure if I notice it does move a little bit up and down by the sound only. And I think I can, let's see, can I get it? No, I cannot grab it easily enough. Okay. Oh, now it comes up. So it's very, I don't know, I think it's going to be really case by case. Oops, got it too much in there. It's going to be case by case, but just try to release it like this. And there is another video. Okay, now you see it does rotate. because it's all under the thread. So this is because it's clean, obviously. Right now I'm rotating it easily. And if I try to release it from there and try to find the spot, I don't know why it's just at one place that will come from there. Obviously I can put my hand in there because it's empty, but you will have other components. This piece will be in there, so you're not going to put your finger in there. That's why you try to grab it with the pliers. But again, there is 80–90% chances perhaps you will not remove it from there. I don't know what else to say. Sometimes with the hoop that you can remove from the well with the entire case, you can just flip it like this. Maybe you can push it with a screwdriver, but and try to push it maybe on the outer edge. So put a flat screwdriver, push like this, try to find a spot when it lifts from there, but that's only when you can remove basically this the core from the hoop. If you cannot, basically you cannot flip this like this. So this is about this cup, yes, basically. Again, you can try to replace it with a plastic piece, rigid plastic. Maybe try to smear it with some grease so it doesn't rub and create plastic particles in there. Let me just say one more thing. When you tighten back the things, I really like to have the threads clean. Why? Because if you have grease or oil on the threads and you tighten down, that will basically, what that grease will do is will artificially reduce the torque that you feel in a wrench, and basically what you are doing, applying a torque that you think is good, is going to double that torque, and you may strip the threads. That's why you want to have no grease on threads. I like to clean the grease with isopropyl alcohol. This is a 99%. Notice I find this in the drugstore. 1999 is better, 95 or 99. And this, I use this lacquer thinner. I do not use acetone. Acetone is not good on grease. This is good on grease. Lacquer thinner, paint thinner. To clean the balls, what I like to do is just put the balls in this solution, maybe let them sit overnight or 2 days. These are 25, make sure you count them, 50, sorry, two sets of 25. And maybe rub them with something. Be careful, this is corrosive, right? Use strong gloves, chemical gloves. Rub them, and then when I find it's clean from the solvent, I try to just, you know, put some piece, like a piece of paper in there to absorb more solvent. And the remaining solvent, what I do, I just put isopropyl alcohol. This dissolves this thing. So I soak it in alcohol, and I maybe just a little bit of alcohol, and I just let the alcohol dry overnight or so. Try not to smell too much fumes from alcohol either. And use a ventilated area. Is not good for your health. Basically, it gets into your blood, alcohol, when it evaporates. So you just let them evaporate the alcohol, and that's how you get them clean. Careful, handle. These things are so small, and they like to go very far away from you. So yes, this is how you disassemble pretty much this thing. One last tip about this outer locking ring. I did open 2 hubs like this until now. I did not have the K, that wrench with the chain, and the others. I do have the socket here. You need the socket to secure it back in place, or just stop with a screwdriver, right? This is normal thread. Just stop with the screwdriver to secure it back in place. But I have to say that on one hub that I tried to open, I could not. I brought it to a bicycle shop, and 2 people, one kept the wrench, one of the wrench to prevent the sprockets from rotating, the other kept the other wrench with the socket, and they had to force a lot, 2 persons, to release this ring. That gives you an idea, because there is a lot of grit in there, obviously. And also notice this surface, it has kind of, I don't know how to call this, teeth or so, to prevent it from rotating. So I just want to give you an idea. This can be incredibly stuck in there. You don't have to tighten it that much back on, but just keep in mind this aspect. You may not be able to remove it. And yes, if you want to try to release this thing, one of the ways is, I'll give you a suggestion here. So you'll have the socket, you want to put the socket centerpiece, so I'm talking about that ring, right? You want to put the socket with your wrench to the left side and push downwards on it. That's the normal release part. But also the other piece, the other wrench that sits on the sprocket, so you have the sprockets like this. Try to put the handle from the other piece, from the other wrench, also on the left side, and put the wheel vertical on the floor, and the handle for the sprockets that lock the sprockets in place, the handle from that wrench, put it against some tall object. So basically the tool that locks the sprockets will want to move downwards if you put it to the left side. So block it with something tall against the floor, so you will not have a hand on it probably, so it cannot move downwards, and your other wrench will sit just in front of it, and also you push it downwards towards the floor. I'm not sure if it's clear, but this may ease your work to release that locking ring that keeps all those sprockets in place. So yes, these are my tips. If you have any questions, I'll link you maybe in the comment section a video showing how to put the small bearings in place, how to drop them in there in grease. But that video, it's for another hub which I had, where I was able to remove this piece from there. So it does not apply to hubs where you don't remove that piece from there. So look in the comment section and let me know if you have any questions about this procedure.